Yeah, I did. So when we met in the German event, you guys were just super generous and shared a lot of wonderful information. And kind of how I start out the show is always just talking about the background and, just
Okay.
kind of your history and some of the things that accomplished or may have went through growing up. And, I did some research on your history and, you have a super phenomenal story. It motivates me, anytime I feel like quitting or giving up, then I just think about people that, have went through a lot and they, have came out on the better end. So just for the viewers to kind of give them a background about you, do you mind sharing your story?
Yeah. I grew up really poor, not too far from where I live now in a little town called Parma, Idaho. When I say I grew up poor, I grew up in a house that had no running water, no electricity. It used to be someone's storage shed. The bedroom that my siblings and I shared, I have 11 siblings, I'm the oldest, was smaller than my master bedroom closet is today. In fact, that whole house, you could pick it up and put it almost inside my living room. For sure, my living room and kitchen. And so there's, like I said, I'm the oldest of 11 kids, and then my stepdad and my mom as well lived there. And then we always had friends over. Surprisingly, people would bring their kids over. And, we got our food out of a dumpster. So every Wednesday after school, we went dumpster diving, and that's where we got our food. So I grew up a lot different than most people. And because of that, I'm different than everybody else. And I'm very motivated to become successful, and I always have been. I left home when I was 15 years old, primarily because I got tired of getting beat up all the time. My stepdad would literally beat us and torture us. And my youngest brother, the closest to my age, he's 10 months younger than me. His name is Jeremy. When we were 14, 15, we decided, he was 14, I was 15. We decided that we were done getting beat up, and we started carrying walking sticks. And they were really clubs. They looked more like a baseball bat than a walking stick, because we spent a lot of time in the mountains. And it was around March or April of must have been 2000 or 1985, somewhere in there. I was 15 years old. We were up in Wenatchee, Washington, picking apples, and these are the apples that you eat, not juice apples. And so if you drop one, it bruises them, and you can't sell it, right? And they will actually bill you for that apple. And so my brother's up about a 16-foot ladder, and we're picking apples. And all of this kids were working. We always work for money, not for us, but for the actual family. And so my brother drops an apple, and Paul sees it, comes up and kicks the ladder out from under my brother. And he fell like 14, 16 feet. And then he immediately jumps on him and starts punching him in the face. So I come up behind him, and our plan was we were going to hit him until he stops breathing. And that was our plan. And so he must have saw me or heard me. So he jumped up, figured out really fast what my brother and I were doing, and stopped us. Went to my mom and said, "Your boys here are trying to kill me. So you have a choice. They go or you go." And so my mom gave us a bag of apples, gave us $20 in food stamps, and sent us on our way. So I left home when I was 15, and I spent the next year or so in foster care, different shelters, and then eventually ended up in Oregon, where I was born. And I moved in with my mother's father until he got a divorce. And so I got kicked out of that because my step grandmother didn't want me around. So then I ended up moving in my junior year with my dad's dad. And that's when I went to work for a guy named Wally Williams. Wally Williams was a very, very wealthy individual. He owned several businesses in that town, including Driscoll's Funeral Home. So here I am. I'm 16 years old, junior in high school, and I'm working at a funeral home. And it was the first structure that I had in life. And it was my first real education about finances and money that wasn't that my mom and Paul would teach me, which was money is the root of all evil, which that's what the Bible says, right? That's what they would say, which it doesn't say that. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And so I was taught as a kid that, money's bad, the government's bad, education's bad, people with money are bad, and you should avoid it at all costs. And what was interesting was Paul, my stepdad, that made us live so poorly in that shack with no running water, no electricity, that made us eat food out of a dumpster, recently died. He had millions of dollars in his bank account when he died. And he had millions of dollars when I was a kid, but we lived in this little shack because he hated money so much. But Wally started teaching me about money and being an entrepreneur. And so my junior and senior year in high school, I become a licensed funeral director and a licensed embalmer, and started learning about money, and eventually left that job to become a firefighter in Littleton, Colorado. And that's where I really started learning about life and business, because I worked 8 days a month as a career firefighter. I made very, very good money. Firefighters, after your first year, you make about $100,000 a year. You do pretty well. But then you only work 8 days a month, and then you get vacation times on top of that. So literally you could work 6 days a month. And so as an entrepreneur, I ran different side hustles and businesses, and eventually started making millions of dollars with the construction company. And then in 2006, my little brother, one of the siblings that I left, and that's, it's a lot of guilt that I have for leaving. And I realized that, I was 15 years old. I was just a little kid. I was just trying to get out, trying to survive myself. But I had a lot of guilt for leaving the siblings, because, now that I left, the beatings went on to the other kids. But my little brother, who I had left, his name was Zeke, also was a firefighter. And here I am in Denver, Colorado, Littleton, Colorado, Denver area. And I'm out here rescuing people. I thought I was this superhero, right? Every day it's 10, 12 people's lives that we'd save, not realizing that my little brother, who's a firefighter in Oregon, was suffering, and ended up killing himself. And he ended up killing himself over a few $1,000s. It really wasn't a lot of debt. He had some personal problems and relationship problems, and but ultimately he was getting harassed, and he just felt like there was no way out. And so he killed himself, and it took me a long time to recover from that. And I really didn't tell anybody about it for a long time. But I went and started a company called Fortress Credit Pro in an attempt to keep people from committing suicide over credit issues. And I did that as a volunteer thing. And then I started making money at it, and I started making really good money. So I turned it into a business, and 2012 was my most successful year to that date. I started in 2007. And now we do, 8 figures a year of helping people with credit and taxes and money and financial education and retirement accounts and insurance, and converting their 401ks into IUL, so they never have to pay taxes on that money when they pull it out, and some other things. So that's kind of how I got started in the financial services business. And I know it's kind of long-winded, but
yeah, no, that's all there. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing everything. One question that I did have, I know you made the transition from 15, leaving your home and then going under the kind of the wing of Mr. Williams, and he started teaching you more about money. At that age, what do you feel like was the different, the different communication or patterns that each one had? Like, for example, one of the very first books I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and, just reading some of those principles, hearing the different, languages from the family I was raised in to Robert Kiyosaki. So, what was some of the different things that you heard from him?
I remember him teaching me it's not how much money you make that matters. It's how much money you keep. And that taxes are our largest expense in life. And it's your responsibility to figure out the tax game, and only your responsibility. It's not your CPAs. It's not your attorney. It's not your tax professional. It's your sole responsibility to figure it out because it's a game. There are rules to the game. Your CPA are like the referees. And a lot of people don't know this, that CPAs are legally bound to turn you into the IRS if you admit to making a mistake. Legally bound. And so they're the referees and they just turn you in. And so I learned at 15 years old that taxes are a big part of our life. And that become my sport of choice, was learning the tax code and learning how to play that game to where I was winning. And I personally have not paid personal income tax in a decade or longer. And when I do pay, it's, a couple $1,000s. Now you would think someone that makes 8 figures would be paying a lot of taxes. But I don't. And I don't do anything illegal. I don't write off anything that I could not withstand an audit. And I've been audited before. And this is some of the things that I teach as one of my courses, is how to eliminate your tax burden and do it ethically and legally. And I pay my fair share. It's just when you apply certain things and you understand the rules of the game, you can win. And I see not paying taxes as winning. Now, I pay a lot of property tax. We have $95 million of apartment complexes. I pay a lot of employer taxes, and I pay a lot of sales tax, but I just personally don't pay personal taxes. So that's one of the biggest things he taught me. And one of the ways he would show me was every Friday, his wife would come in to the funeral home, and it was my job to wash her car. So she'd bring her little sports car in. It was like a 280Z or something. I don't remember. But as a poor kid, it was a pretty big deal. I mean, it was a big deal then. It was a $40,000 car back then. And so she'd bring this car in, and I would wash it for her and detail the inside. And then she would take the Cadillac, go to lunch with her friends. But before she would go to lunch, Wally would give her a stack of cash every single Friday. He'd give her $2,000 in cash. And if he wasn't there, the receptionist would give it to her, and she would make the wife sign for it so she had proof that the wife actually picked it up, because something had happened in the past where the wife said she didn't get it and she actually did. And so the receptionist would make her sign it out, and they coded it as petty cash. And Wally would always, whenever I'd see it, he goes, "See what I just did? I just gave my wife some cash. Guess what? I don't have to do. I don't have to pay taxes on that money now." And he would always reiterate that you need to learn the tax game. So that's what I learned.
Okay. Yeah. And I hear that awfully a lot. And, myself as a newer entrepreneur, just launching, opening my LLC within the past year or so, and learning how important the tax game is. What advice do you have to any newer entrepreneurs on exactly how to learn the game and, control it in your advantage? Is it just going out there and just, pretty much reading, studying, and, picking up every book you can, or do you have maybe a simple system to simplify it and help to understand it a little easier?
Yeah. So outside of my course, because I actually have a course that I sell for $997 that goes over, the ins and outs and how to win at the tax game. But outside of that, I would recommend a guy named Tom Wheelwright. Tom Wheelwright is Robert Kiyosaki's tax professional. And he also works exclusively with business owners. And so people can hire him to do their taxes. And again, he's a tax professional. And you want to use a tax professional, not a CPA. You have a CPA that files your tax returns. Tax professional plans for the tax returns. And then you give it to the CPA. My CPA, I've never met him. I don't even know if it's a man, to be honest with you. I've never spoken to him. I've never emailed them. I've never texted them. I literally have had zero communication with the guy that does my taxes in over a decade. Why? because I use a middleman in between. I use a tax professional who does everything and sends it to the CPA. The CPA essentially rubber stamps it, and he's responsible for that return. But Thomas Wheelwright would be probably who I'd recommend for a book. It's a simple book. He updates it every once in a while. He just updated it for the new tax code with Trump, and it's called Tax-Free Living, I think. Let me look it up real quick for you. But that's what I would recommend, is getting Thomas's book, Tom Wheelwright's book. It's called Tax-Free Wealth. So it looks, I don't know if you can see that there.
Okay.
If you're watching this online, I just pulled up if you're listening to this, I just pulled out my phone. It's Tax-Free Wealth, How to Build Massive Wealth by Permanently Lowering Your Taxes by Tom Wheelwright, a CPA. So he is a CPA, but I guarantee he's not the one filing your tax returns. It'll be someone else.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's super interesting, because I'm sure most people, don't know that or don't realize that. So I appreciate you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And circling back around to 2012, when you started your Credit Pro company, I know that was one of the biggest years you have, and then from there you kind of took off. But I'm sure. Go ahead.
No. I started in 2007. 2012 is when it really got. That was the tipping point.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. So yeah, in 2007, from 2007 to now, could you just talk about, I guess the journey of the company? You see now super successful celebrity wealth coach. You've helped, a lot of people, millions of dollars, but I'm just assuming it wasn't always like that. Could you talk about, maybe some of the trials that you had to overcome?
Yeah. The biggest trial is I didn't make any money for the first 5 years. I mean, I literally, from 2007 to 2010, I either lived in my truck or I lived in foreclosed homes. So at the time I was a real estate agent, had my own real estate brokerage. And this is, 2007, 8, 9, 10. I don't know if you remember that, but things were going sideways in the real estate market, and we had millions of homes that were vacant. And so what I did is I approached the banks and I approached these owners of these properties and said, look, I will stage them. I'll turn on the electricity. I'll mow the lawn. I'll keep them looking good if in exchange you let me live there. And so from 2007 until 2011, actually 2007, 2011, I lived in foreclosed homes, and I moved every 4 to 6 weeks. And I ate once a day at Chipotle. That's all the money I had. And I was going through divorce and a custody battle. So I was spending a lot of my money on trying to get my kids. And eventually I won, and I got full custody of my kids. And then that's when I moved to San Diego. It was 2011. And then still, I mean, every dollar I made went back into the company, paid the payroll. And there were many times that payroll bounced, many times. And I would have to scrounge to get money. So much so that, and the statute of limitations has expired on this, so I will tell you a little story, and not recommending this. But in 2008, yes, 2008, I was at a seminar, and I hated the speaker. His name was Joel Bauer. He was the biggest jerk I had ever seen on stage. And he does his presentation. The next thing I know, I'm standing in line writing him a check for $2,500, knowing I did not have $2,500 in my checking account, knowing it was going to bounce. But I wanted to get on his list so I could go to his seminar. So that was in April 2008, and his seminar was in November. And I figure I'll figure something out. So I get back to Colorado, and basically I took money out of I had some rental properties that I was managing for some owners. I took money out of the security deposits to cover that check until I could go out and make it. And, it only took me a couple of days to pay it back, but essentially I still stole it, if you will. And I'm not saying that you should ever do that. It's just, that's what I did. I was willing to do whatever it took to be able to go to that seminar, and that seminar changed my life. And then from there is rice and beans and rice every day, and Chipotle. I mean, and we were broke, and ramen noodles. I don't know how many times I've eaten ramen noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And to make things a little bit tastier, we get ramen noodles with a can of like chicken soup, Campbell's chicken soup, and you dump them in with the noodles to make them taste a little better.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. And then even after 2012, I'd made money, but it's still a struggle. 2017, I expanded to Vegas. We had 40-something employees. June 2017, we were growing so fast that the merchant account got closed. And I remember telling Wells Fargo when they're like, yeah, we got to close it. We think it's fraud. You guys are doing 10 times the amount of business, 10 times the amount of deposits than you were last month. And I remember telling them, I'm like, that's okay. I got 4 more accounts. It's all good. What I didn't know was over those 10 years, 2007 to 2017, they had all merged and Wells Fargo had them all. So in June 2017, I lost my ability to collect payments. And for most businesses, maybe that wouldn't make a big difference. But with me, 100% of my clients don't pay their bills on time. 100% of them at some point in their life do not pay their bills, because that's why they're hiring me, is to fix their credit. So what do you think the likelihood of these thousands of clients, after they find out I can't process a merchant account, are going to send me money orders and cashier's checks? Not very many. And I lost millions of dollars overnight. I still had payroll. I still had rent. I still had everything. And so I started leveraging and auctioning and pawning. And it wasn't until November of 2017 that I was able to collect money again. But I kept the business afloat for 5 months with zero revenue. And why that's important is not for me. It is so important as a business owner that you pull chips off the table. As you make money, every month you pull money out. You don't constantly reinvest. And that's one of the mistakes that I see the majority of business owners do, and starting out entrepreneurs, and even established entrepreneurs. I spoke to one today. I spoke to a lady today. She's been in business since 1982. 1982. And she's still reinvesting all of her profit back into her business. She's not taking it out. There's a book I read. It's called Profit First. And I think it is the very best book for entrepreneurs to read. Profit First. I used to say that it was E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And Michael Gerber and I are good friends. And he hates the fact that I tell people that Profit First is the best business book, because he thinks E-Myth's the best business book. And the reason I think Profit First is better than E-Myth is because if you do E-Myth and don't take the profit out of your company, it's worthless. Why even have a business if you're not taking it out? Imagine this. Imagine if you had Apple stock. Do you have any stock at all?
I don't.
Okay. Imagine you had Apple stock and they send you a dividend because they did so well and it's $1,000. Would you say, you know what, Apple, I don't need it. Just go ahead and reinvest that $1,000 and give it back to them? No, you'd keep it. That's the reason you buy stock. But what most business owners do is the moment they make profit, they take it and they go invest it back into the business. So it's really important. And because I took money out every single month, I take money out on the 25th of the month, and I have 5 different accounts. It comes out automatically. Because I did that, I was able to go and I stay afloat for 5 months with zero revenue coming in. And it made me a lot stronger entrepreneur. So it hasn't always been peachy. I mean, even last year, I had my business partner quit. I got divorced. Not only did my business partner quit, he took my #1 salesman and he went down the street, literally like 2 blocks away, and opened another credit repair company. And stole, not only did he quit, and stole my best guy, he broke into my office and took my external hard drive that had all of my marketing material on it. Now, he got charged with a felony over it, and he's dealing with that criminal aspect of it now, but he still did it. So as an entrepreneur, it's never peachy, ever. It's always hard, always.
Yeah.
And when you think things are going to go right, you get hit with a stupid lawsuit, over something silly, and then you got to deal with it. So.
Right. Yeah. And where do you get the mental, I guess, the patience, right, to be able to play the long game, being able to, generate the profits, do the right things with it, and, always looking at the long vision.
I think that is something that you just develop over time. I don't believe that we're naturally born entrepreneurs. I don't believe that. I think some of us are born and have different personalities that are good at getting or okay with being told no, and they're comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's really important, that if you want to be successful, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that just needs to be part of your life. And I don't buy into this, everybody should be an entrepreneur. I really don't. I think everybody should have a small home-based business. Everybody should have a small home-based business, because that's the number one way to reduce your tax burden. But I don't think everybody should be an entrepreneur. And what I mean by an entrepreneur versus a home-based business is, you can sit at home, you can join an MLM, you can sell lotion, potions, pills, you can sell widgets, and make a little bit of money. And that, because you're a business owner, you can write off a lot of things that you normally can't, as long as you're trying to make money in the business. But I don't think everybody should do it. I think sometimes I am envious of my client, of my employees. It's almost every day. Every day I want to quit. And then I have a big win. And then 15 minutes later, I'm ready to quit again. And then 20 minutes later, I have a win, and sometimes it's every day, and sometimes it's minute by minute, and sometimes week by week. But I'm envious sometimes of my employees, because at 5 o'clock, they get to go home and they forget about work. I never forget about it. I never shut off until I until I purposely shut off. And one of the things I do, I live in Idaho, and there's a lot of mountains here that have no cell phone signal. And so some of the things I do is I schedule time knowing that my phone is not going to work. And I'll go whitewater rafting or hiking or hunting or camping or fishing or whatever, knowing that no one can get in touch with me. Because if I don't do that, I'm always connected. So you got to disconnect.
Yeah.
You just got to get mental toughness and just deal with it, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing the gems. I know you got a super busy schedule, so just a few more questions here. And then,
take your time. Ask as many as you want.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I guess one of the first questions I do have when, definitely starting and building your business, what was some of the methods that you use to actually, get started and scaling? I know you're pretty much probably just prospecting and letting everyone know exactly what you're doing, but do you have a process with that?
Do I have a process now with getting business, or back then?
Well, both. That would be, good question. Both.
Yeah. Prior to 2012, so the first 5 years, I literally did not spend one single penny on marketing. And in fact, it wasn't until 2015 that I started spending money on marketing. So that's 8 years. And surprisingly, after my business partner quit on me and stole my hard drives and stuff and took all the marketing, our marketing budget has been reduced by 90%, but we're up 400% on sales since he left. And so I think marketing is really important, but I think everybody that knows you should know what you do. And one of the things that I did And I did this with my construction company. I had t-shirts and I had hats, and you can see, my shirt here. I wrap my vehicles. I was a walking billboard. And when I owned my construction company, I literally would do these little home and garden shows. And I would give away t-shirts and hats to every single person that walked by. And I do the same thing now with my business. Every client that hires us gets a water bottle, they get a badge, they get a key lanyard, they get a t-shirt, and they get a hat, they get a coffee cup. And when I get my books back, I rent out, they'll get my little black book of credit secrets. And every client gets those. As long as we have them in stock. We run out a lot. And COVID screwed everything up, so we had to stop shipping them for a while. But I think everybody should know exactly what you do, and you should be a walking billboard. You should not be wearing Nike shirts or Reebok shirts. Or my favorite t-shirt to wear is Psycho Bunny. But if you saw me most of the time, you're going to see me with a shirt that says Fortress across the back or Fortress on the front. And so I think branding yourself is probably the most important thing you can do, is branding yourself and letting everybody know. And then providing value to people without asking for them to buy anything. One of the things that annoys me tremendously is I have people every day, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or email, and they're trying to get me to buy stuff from them. There's no relationship. They just flat out ask me to buy. It's like going out to a bar, walking up to a girl and asking her to have sex with you. Not even building a relationship with her. Just, hey, you want to have sex? Eventually, I guess if you do that enough, someone's going to say yes, right? And my favorite thing to say to them, especially on Instagram, is they'll say, yeah, I want to support you, and this is what I do, and I can build your audience to 50,000 people tomorrow. And I look, and they got like 3 followers. And they're not even following me. So my user response is next time you ask someone to spend money with you, probably should be following them to show them that you're supporting them, and have the number of followers yourself that you're asking me to spend money with you and get, right? So I think branding, creating a brand, figuring out who you are as a brand, sticking to that brand, and being authentic is super important. I mean, today it's so easy for people to be in business and create marketing campaigns for free on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. Snapchat and what's the other one? TikTok. It's so easy to get eyeballs. And you can do it all for free. So you just got to be resourceful and make sure everybody in your world knows what you do.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer. My next question would be that for my children, I just recently opened up an LLC for my daughter. Is there any steps that you have, as far as going that route? I mean, besides building the relationships with the bank, putting money within the accounts, is there any like codes or maybe not, I know loopholes, maybe not the right words, but just some way you could, possibly educate me on, assisting there.
What's the purpose of the LLC?
Pretty much just to build a relationship and ultimately be able to use business credit down the road.
Okay. But you said you did it in your daughter's name.
Correct.
Did I hear that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So here's something that a lot of people understand. So a LLC is for asset protection. LLCs do nothing for tax planning. Absolutely nothing for tax planning.
Okay.
It's doing the Form 1120S, the IRS Form 1120S, the S election, that you elect the LLC to be taxed as an S corp. See, corporations help you with business credit and taxes. LLCs are simply to protect your assets. You have to fill out that 1120S to become an S Corp, a C Corp. Otherwise, you're going to be automatically disqualified, and you'll be a sole proprietor, which is no different than you doing it your own name. Okay. As far as your daughter having an LLC for business credit purposes, there's no reason for that to be in your daughter's name. It could be your name. It could be your dog's name. It doesn't matter. To build business credit, you got to do those 5 things I talked about at that driven event.
Yeah.
And then you got to spend the money, build the relationships with the banks, and purchase things. But as far as setting one up in your daughter's name, there's no reason to do that. I teach that with my business credit course, I teach that you should have 5 LLCs or 5 corporations at all times. And, you have to have an operating LLC. You have your bankruptcy LLC. You have your marketing LLC. You have your management company LLC. And you have the emergency LLC. So you have 5 of them set up, and you build business credit on all 5 of them. And then you get lines of credit on all 5 of the LLCs or corporations, and you build it that way. But it doesn't need to be, there's no advantage of having it in your daughter's name for building business credit or tax reasons. Now, with that being said, how old's your daughter?
She's 6.
Okay. With that being said, you can do a family-owned LLC that your corporation pays to do things around the house or your office. Not around the house as in your house, but maybe in your home office. So for example, my grandson, he'll be 9 in October, has been on payroll or salary with me. I pay his janitorial company, which is an LLC, for janitorial services. So every day after school, he comes to my office and he empties all the trash cans for all 40 plus employees. He also will clean windows. He cleans out on Fridays. He cleans out the fridge, takes out the trash of the fridge, cleans everything out. He restocks the bathroom toilet paper. He restocks the paper towels. He helps out with mail. One of the favorite things that when he was 6, he liked to run in the shredder, shredding credit reports and IDs and stuff. And so he comes in every single day, 4 to 5 days a week after school, and he works, and he gets paid to do that. You got to pay them what they're worth. You can't pay your daughter, 6-year-old daughter, $30,000 a year for putting stamps on envelopes, right? It's got to make sense. But you can pay your kids up to $13,000 a year as a deduction for your company, and as long as they make less than $13,000, they don't pay taxes at all. And so one of the things I did when my kids were really little, when I owned the construction company, we built high-end custom decks. And one of the things that we built primarily it's called Brazilian redwood. It's a very special wood that comes out of the Brazilian rainforest in the water. So the tree has already died. It's been soaking in the Amazon River for sometimes 200 years. And so they'll make decks out of it. It's rot proof, fireproof, etc. And it's also known as ePay. Well, you got to use special bolts for that. And these screws were like 50 cents a screw. Mm-hmm. And when you're 30 feet up in the air, you occasionally drop screws. You bend over, they fall out of your pockets or whatever. And I had a contract that if after being completed with the job, if you come and found a nail, a screw, a piece of wood in your backyard, I would pay you. And I had a set price. It was a penalty for me not cleaning up your house. Because for me, it was really important that I got a lot of referrals. And a lot of construction people, they don't show up on time. They leave it a mess. They play loud music. And so I had a whole list of, we will never do this kind of thing. And that's how I started building these very, very expensive decks. And we were the most expensive deck company in the United States. I mean, we charged someone $300,000 to build a deck. And one of the things that I would do is every few days, my kids would come over and they'd get on their hands and knees and they would crawl the yard looking for nails and screws. Now, these screws, these stainless steel screws, were 50 cents a piece. And if you think about 1,000 square foot deck, you might have 4,000 screws at 50 cents a piece. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So what I did with my kids is I paid them sometimes a nickel. As they got older, I'd pay them 10 cents a screw. So for every screw they found in the grass, they'd get a penny. Or, I mean, they'd get a dime, a nickel to a dime. And at the end of the year, it could be $10,000 to $13,000. That's a legitimate expense, and it's a legitimate wage. You crawl the grass looking for screws. My kids loved it, and they'd have their friends come over. My oldest daughter, when she was like 12, I was paying her around 10 cents a screw. She paid her friends 5 cents a screw. So I'd pay her 10, she'd pay her friends a nickel, right? And so with that, my kids always had money. And if you listen to my podcast, you'll hear me say, I never paid my kids allowance. I never bought my kids clothes. I never paid for their food. I made them pay for their own stuff. They had to have their own, they paid for their own cell phone, their own food. They paid for their own lunch at school. If they wanted to go to the movies, they had to pay for it themselves. And if you only hear that part, it sounds like I'm just this complete jerk, right? Here I got a 9-year-old kid and I'm not buying them food. The reason I wasn't buying them food was because they were on salary and they had thousands of dollars in their checking account, and mom would use their debit card to buy their own clothes, or they would use their debit card for cheerleading camp or groceries or whatever. So this is a strategy that business owners can do, that you can put your kids on payroll. Not only can you put your kids on payroll, but you can put anyone on payroll that makes less than $13,000, that makes over half of the money from you. You can put them on payroll. So like my grandmother, when she was in a nursing home, she called me one day and she didn't have any money. My grandfather had already died. She was in a nursing home, didn't have money for some prescriptions because they raised the price. Medicaid wouldn't pay for it. And instead of me just paying for her prescriptions, I put my grandma on salary, created a job for her that she could do as a lady in her 80s from her nursing home room. And she started doing this work, and I started giving her money, and then she used that money that was tax deductible for me, legit business write-off for me as well, because I was going to pay someone to do it. And my grandma she didn't have to pay any taxes on it because it was less than 13 grand. So that's some things that you can do. You put your kids on payroll. And so that would be a reason for the LLC. So that's the whole point to that, was that's why you do the LLC with the kids. It's not necessarily to build business credit. It's so you can pay the LLC, and they'll have to file a tax return. But because they're less than 13,000, they end up paying no Social Security, no taxes, and they're going to be a lot lower tax bracket than you are. You're going to pay money on that taxes, right? So you give it to them, make them pay for their own food and clothes and all the other stuff.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's great information. That is everything I was looking for. So I'm super appreciative for that.
Yeah, and all this stuff, all these things. I am not a tax professional. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. It's not legal advice. You should contact your tax professional. These are just ideas that you can learn about in Tom Wheelwright's book and in strategies. And then you talk to your tax professional to learn the way to legally do it so you don't get yourself in trouble.
Got it. Okay, cool. And just in conclusion, I want to definitely talk a little bit more about your company and the programs you have. I know you're going to be having a webinar Sunday, which I signed up for. So I'm super interested to hear more about that. But that aspect, and also your company being I don't know if it still is the one and only, but I know it was the first founded 100% performance-based. Could you just let our viewers know a little bit more about that and, give them some information?
Yeah. So I have 5 different companies. One is Fortress Credit Pro, which was America's first paid-on results credit repair. What that means is people hire us without giving us any money until we performed a service. And then we go out and we work on cleaning up their credit, and we never bill them until we actually delete something from their credit report. So unlike the Lexington Laws, the Ovations, the Blue Skies, and my friends, the Credit Pros and Kansas City Credit Services, they charge you a monthly fee, anywhere from $79 to $119 a month to fix your credit. So what happens with it is, in order for them to stay in business, they have to purposely drag out your credit repair. So the average client that hires me has 22 negative accounts. So if you went to my competitor, it will take approximately 22 months for them to clean up your credit, because they're going to dispute one account per month. Because if you got 22 accounts and they disputed everything and they really tried hard like we do, the following month they pull your credit and everything's gone, how many of those clients are going to continue to pay $79 a month? None, because there's nothing to work on. So they will purposely drag it out for 2 to 3 years. Now, what we do is we will work on every single account, every single bureau, every single month until the items are deleted. Our goal is to get all of it deleted in your first 45 days with us. You know, on average, we delete 50% your very first month with us. 50% of our clients are completed in 90 days or less. 90% of our clients are 5 months or less. 90%. Why only 90%? There's other people that have a lot of stuff. You know, if you have $100,000 judgment or $100,000 tax lien or bankruptcy, sometimes it takes more than 5 months to get through the proper procedures that where you can force the credit bureaus and banks to remove it. There's certain things that you have to do in order to make them remove it. And the bureaus have about 30 to 45 day window each time. And so there's 3 things that you got to do. Well, that literally could be 4 months just to get to that point where you can threaten to sue them. So we started it, Paid on Performance. And this lady I was talking to today, she's a sweetheart. So I've been friends with her since 2007. Like I said, she's been in credit repair since 1982. It's the oldest credit repair company in America. And she says to me, she's like, I can't do paper delete because people won't pay me. Our clients don't pay their bills. I'm like, I know, but it's the only, in my opinion, the only legal way, the only ethical way, and the only way you should do business, where you get paid on performance, not paid for trying. So my company gets a trophy for completing the process versus a participation trophy for just trying to fix credit. Imagine if, you know, 2 days ago, I had a plumbing issue at my house. The trees out in the road dug into the pipes. And so when I run the dishwasher back up into the sink, that plumber, can you imagine if I had to pay him to try to clean out the drain? And then every month he had to come back, I'd give him $10 a month for that $100 for him to snake it. I mean, think about it. Oh, here's your $10. And he runs a little snake for 5 more feet. All right, I'll be back next month. That's how people do their credit repair. And so we're the first company to ever do it. I'm still the only company to actually do it. And it's because a lot of clients don't pay you.
Yeah.
And my advantage is because I've done it for so long and I'm so respected in that industry, including the credit bureaus. I'm the first credit repair company to get their own credit monitoring service. The very first company. So I own Credit Mojo as well, which is a credit monitoring service. I got that through TransUnion. And then I have another company called Credit Hacks, which is another credit monitoring service through Experian. Because the credit bureaus trust me. I don't send silly letters like this is not mine. I was never late. Like we send legit, this is a mistake, fix it or we're going to sue you. And the credit bureaus respect that because I keep them from being sued. And so they let me do things differently. I'm the very first credit repair company that a bank will finance 100% of my credit repair and then report all of my payments or all of the client's payments on the credit reports. So if you hired me to fix your credit and you got 22 items, I charge $125 per account that I successfully get deleted. So if you got 20 items, your bill with us is going to be like, I don't know, $2,400. I'm going to finance that for 4 years. Your payment to us is going to be around $28 a month. The bank is going to report it to all 3 credit bureaus as a positive account. So not only are we fixing your credit in the first 3 to 4 months, the bank's reporting all the payment histories. The credit bureaus love it because they make money They make money on the disputes and they make money on the reporting. The banks like it because they get the interest from it. My clients like it because they get a positive account and their credit's fixed. And then I like it because I get paid. So we're the first company to ever do that. And we're still the only company to do it. But you know, there'll always be those models, the Lexington Law models, the blue sky, Ovation, because there are people that are willing to play the lottery, and they think if they pay Lexington $79, Lexington's going to delete everything. And it's not how their business model works. So that's one of the companies. The other company that you're going to learn about on Sunday is my financial services company that I partnered up with a guy named Ed Milet. Do you know who Ed is?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a vision over the next 10 years to help 20 million families in America with their finances, teach them about money, credit, and taxes. And at the same time, creating more $1 million earners than any other company has ever done. And since COVID, we've hired over 1,000 people. I personally hired over 44, but we're going out to we're taking Wall Street to Main Street and teaching normal people about money, the things that Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch, Fidelity, they don't want you to know. You know, I talked to a lady today that works for University of Washington, and she was telling me she's got her 401k with Fidelity. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know, Fidelity's charging you 5.5% every single year for every dollar you put into your account. She's like, no, my 401k is free. I'm like, no, it's not. They're charging you 5.5. So you put $1,000 in, they just charge you $55 to manage your money. And then they're charging you 1.5% to market their company to other people. So think about that. They are legally allowed to take 7% of everything you give them for profit and to market their company through fees and expenses. And so we're out there educating people how Wall Street works and how you don't have to put up with it. You don't have to do that through 401k. You don't have to pay those fees if you don't want to. And so that's what Ed and I are doing is we're going out, we're sharing that message, and we're getting people that want to share that message, and we're training them on how to do it. And we're creating an army of financial experts to take Wall Street to Main Street and teach people about money, credit, and taxes. So that's what we're doing. So that's the other company you'll learn about on Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm super excited about that. I've been doing tons of research. Isn't A-Rod, Damon John, and some others involved as well?
Yeah. So A-Rod is my business partner. J-Lo is my business partner. John Elway, Damon John's in it. My good friend Brad Lee. I'm trying to get Brad to partner up with us. And there's a lot of celebrities that are involved in it. My good friend Edwin, you might know Edwin Ario. He owns Skyline Security, the largest home security company in the United States. You know, there's a lot of big players in there. And because they're all fed up, they're fed up with Wall Street, and they're fed up with the government and the way they treat us and the way they educate us in school. And we're not taught anything about money or credit or taxes. The only thing we're taught is go to school, keep your mouth shut, get good grades, so you can go to college, you can get a good job, you can go into debt, get married, live in a house with someone you don't like, with kids that you don't like, in debt, buying shit to look good to your neighbors, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then eventually retire and then die 3 years later. In the meantime, you're paying taxes. And I ask this all the time. Next week, I'm meeting with, I'm speaking in front of over 100 CEOs about going in and setting up their HR for their retirement accounts for all their employees. And one of the questions I'll ask them, and I ask people all the time, and I'll ask you right now, if you had a choice, would you rather pay tax on a bag of seed or tax on the $1 million harvest? So you can pay tax on the seed, the $10 bag of seed, or wait and pay it on the harvest.
I want to say the harvest, but maybe that's incorrect.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. If you had a choice of paying tax, would you want to pay the tax on the $10 purchase or pay tax on the $1 million profit. Tax rates are about 30% for most people. So you want to pay 30% on the $10 or 30% on the $1 million harvest?
On the $10.
On the $10, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a 401k?
I don't.
Okay. Do most Americans, are they taught to do 401ks?
They definitely are. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's them paying tax on the harvest. Why not pay the tax when you make the money and let it grow tax-free? So when you pull it out in 40 years and it's $1 million retirement, you don't pay tax on it. Why are we taught to save today on our taxes to pay it later?
Wow.
Because that's what the government wants us to do. That's what the IRS needs us to do. And so we have, one of the things that we have with Ed and A-Rod and J-Lo is a product, a retirement product that you literally pay the tax on the $10 bag of seed. So when you retire, you can take out millions of dollars and never pay a dime in tax on it. So those are just some of the things that we teach through Fortress and, Fortress University and some of the other companies that I belong to.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And I was gonna ask, what you just kind of just answered it a little bit. What were some of the top celebrities or most notable names that you've worked with or that are working with? You just brought that up, so that answers that. And then you were kind of discussing, about, of course, finances, taxes. Where do you see the economy going? I mean, with all the craziness and stuff going on, do you have some type of philosophy or just,
Yeah. There's a great book out there by Harry Dent called The Sale of a Lifetime. And it was written 5-6 years ago. And Harry Dent is an economist. Some people like him, some people don't, because he's very opinionated. But there's a lot of truth in what he wrote. And so the last 2 years, I've had four different billionaires tell me the media is going to do everything they can do to crush the economy. It's going too great. They need to shut it down. The elites need to crush it. Four billionaires have told me this. And so I've been saying on my podcast all the time, winter's coming. You got to stack and rack the cash. Do whatever you can do to keep the cash. Don't buy anything. Just stack it up. And then COVID hits. I don't think that was the plan. I think there's a different plan, but they're just running with it. And they're going crazy with COVID and all the other stuff they're doing. I believe COVID's real. I believe people are dying from it. I believe it was genetically modified as a weapon. I think China created, because COVID's been around for 20 plus years, but I think they modified COVID-19 as a weapon to destroy the US economy, and they released it and it blew up in their face, and it got out in China first. And I think the elites have pushed it into this agenda, and it's become a very political agenda. I think winter's coming, and it's going to hit really, really hard right after Christmas, and maybe before Christmas, to where I sold all my residential real estate. I'm stacking all the cash I can keep right now because it's going to be the sale of a lifetime coming up. As of July 15th, the banks are now legally allowed to report again. And I can tell you this, I've hired 44 new people since COVID hit. I cannot keep up with the calls. We used to call our leads 5 times. So if you went to our website and you requested a free consultation, we'd call you 5 times before it'd quit. I will call you once now. Yeah. Because we don't have enough power to call 5 times. We call 1 time, we leave you a voicemail. If you don't call us back, we're moving on to the next person that answers the phone. And it's a good problem to have. I mean, like I said, we're up 400%. And I think that's because people know that the sale of a lifetime's coming up. They want to get their credit right, and their money right, and their taxes right. So that 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that was $500,000, they can pick it up in January for $180,000. And I think that's what's going to happen. The other thing, I think, in March, I was on a Zoom call with the head of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the head of the SBA. And one of the stats that they shared was 67% of all businesses will fail if they do not have money if they go more than 2 weeks with no income. 67%. Wow. Then if you go more than a month, it was over 90% of all small businesses will fail. They've gone a lot longer than 1 month. What's keeping them afloat? Well, there's a couple things keeping them afloat. PPP, EIDL, economic injury disaster loans, and sure stubbornness. They got cash. So I think as we go into winter, I think we're going to see millions of businesses close. I mean, think about it. A restaurant. If you run a restaurant properly and you are a rock star restaurant owner, your profit margin, if you're good, is 20%. At 100% capacity, 20%. They can't even put 100% people in there. I don't even want to go out to eat. Like I haven't been out to eat for a very, very long time because I don't want to go out and mess with it. Right. The first time I went out after COVID, when here in Idaho, and Idaho is not like the rest of the states, I had to go to the steakhouse and they put me in boxes. Like I had a little buzzer and it would say, go to box 2. And I go to box 2 and stand inside this box. And it was box 3. I was so pissed off by the time I got to the table. I didn't want to eat. I wanted to go home. And I think a lot of businesses aren't going to open up. I really do. I really think they're going to close permanently. And we have millions of businesses go out of business. You have millions of people with no income. And if it was me, man, I would be looking for a business that is recession proof. And the company that Ed Milet and I started, we can't keep up. We don't have enough agents for all the leads that we have. And we haven't even started marketing. Like,
right. Yeah.
You signed up for a webinar. I haven't said anything about that business since April.
Right.
You know, here we are at the end of July. I literally have not said anything about it because I can't keep up with what I already have. So to answer your question, I think financial winter's coming, and I think you need to get your credit and your tax and your money right today. And I think you should look for opportunities that you can work from home, whether that's with Ed and I or someone else, and stuff that's recession proof. Because our business, when the economy's good, our business is good. When the economy's bad, our business is great. And it's just phenomenal, right? So I think to answer your question on that, I just get your shit together.
Yeah.
Get your money right, because it's coming and it's going to hurt. And I feel bad. I feel bad for people because it's going to hurt a lot. But if you have it together, I think it's going to be good.
Right.
There's going to be blood in the streets. And Warren Buffett says it when others are greedy, be scared. When everybody else is scared, be greedy. Yeah. And I think it's coming. So.
Yeah. No, that's good info because, you know, at a space where I'm at now, I've been juggling, like, do I buy a property? What do I do? Do I just, you know, and I know me personally, I'm a pretty good salesperson. I can go out and close a deal, but, you know, taxes and credit isn't my strong suit. So I'm super interested to learn more about what you guys are doing. And then, you know, just hearing you say that. And I even remember Bobby Castro at the event, he was talking about how, you know, what was to come and, you know, just save your money, stack and rack. So just hearing the right information, man, it really helps, and it eases, you know, what the mysteries or the whatever I'm telling myself, you know, just being all over the place. So I appreciate it.
Are you familiar with exotic car hacks?
Yes.
With Pejman?
Yes. My his photographer JT is one of my good. Well, he's not like my good buddy, but through a mutual friend, we've met up a couple times.
So every Monday I get a list of the hottest exotic cars to buy on the market. And it's a list of 10, and watches as well. As you know, I'm a big exotic car guy and a big watch guy. Watching like the Rolls-Royce Wraith. It's a $500,000 car. It's what, you know, Cardone drives. Lots of guys got. Andy Frisella's got one.
Yeah.
My buddy Andy. And so they're an amazing car. They're big car. They're 500 grand. You can pick one up right now for $140,000.
God bless.
I mean, and I saw I'm a big Hublot watch guy, and I saw Spirit of Big Bang. It's a $30,000 watch. I saw it Monday for $13,000.
Wow.
And so if you're listening right now and you're scared, you should be scared. You need to get your finances right and get into a business that's booming, not suffering. But then, like Warren Buffett said, if everybody else is scared, you need to be greedy and watch for these. So the day before COVID really hit, at first I really didn't believe it. I was like, this is just another bird flu thing, right?
Yeah.
Like most of us thought.
Right.
I was buying a multi-million-dollar ranch. The day before, I'd sign all the paperwork and submitting a full price offer and going with it. And then I had to text my realtor and say, don't do it. Like, we're going to wait. That house has already dropped by over 30%. And I think you're going to be okay. I think, the $200,000 and $300,000 homes, I think you'll get hit maybe 10%. I don't think it'll be like 2008 where it just got slaughtered. But I think if you're over 700, it's going to hurt, and then you're in California, right?
No, I'm in Pennsylvania.
You're in Pennsylvania. Okay.
Yeah. Close to Philly.
Recently, Joe Rogan, who's in California, said he's leaving, going to Texas. Elon Musk is leaving. Apple's already left. HP's already left. Toyota's already left. And so when you have all these big corporations that employ hundreds of thousands of people leaving and going elsewhere, that's really going to hurt the economy as well, because no one's going into California. They're just leaving California. So back to your question, what do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to see a reset. Would I buy anything right now? I wouldn't buy. I mean, I personally want to buy so bad. Like every day I get an email list of houses, and every day it's price reductions, huge price reductions. And I mean, these are not little houses. These are like $200,000 price reductions. And I'm tempted to buy, but I'm not going to do it because I think I can buy that house 50% off in 4 or 5 months from now. So stack up your money, stack it up and rack it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Perfect, man. So stack and rack, get educated, get your taxes and credit together. And the last thing we'll go out just to kind of, I guess, lighten the mood a little bit. I remember at Driven, you had said, I don't, which I doubt they would care, but I don't want to say their name, but you had a client who, makes multi-millions of dollars and their credit wasn't the best because what they would do was go out and, pretty much buy a new car every couple of months. And it was, they was paying it full cash, which was bringing the score down. So is there any, I guess, out of the ordinary or kind of comical situation that you may have faced dealing with your clients that you would want to share, that's just very out of the ordinary that may affect people's financial situation that you just want to kind of warn them about, whatever the case is.
This gentleman that you're talking about, what he did when he first come to me, he had a 611 credit score. And, he couldn't buy a house with a 611. He can't get a credit card, a decent credit card with it. And you're not going to get decent financing. And the reason he has 611 was because he would go buy a car, get a loan on it. It'd be 20% interest, and he'd pay it off in 4 or 5 months. Or he'd go lease a car, he'd get tired of it, so he'd go get a new car. And so one of the things that people will do is, especially if they have money, is they will buy these exotic cars and they get loans for them, and then they sell them, they trade them, or they pay off the loans. And think about it. When you get a loan, it's like a pregnancy. You want to go full term. So if you have a 5-year loan on your vehicle, you want to go 5 years in order to have good credit, because the banks are taking a lot of time, a lot of resources to vet you, and they want you to go full term. So when you say you want a 6-year loan or 5-year loan, and then 3 months later you pay it off, it pisses them off. because they spent more money. Here's the other thing people don't know. When you go to a car dealership, you should always finance through the car dealership. Always. Because you'll save 10 to 20% off the purchase price if you finance it through the dealership. Why? Because they sell it to a bank. See, the dealership, what people don't realize is the dealership is the original creditor. It's the dealership that's loaning you the money. They then sell the paper to Wells Fargo or Bank of America or Santander. And then Santander will pay the dealership 10 to 20% of the paper. So you go and buy, great example. I bought a 2019 GMC Denali Duramax. It was $84,000. I only paid $65,000. I got $21,000 off because I financed it through their bank. Why would I get $21,000 off? Because the bank paid them tens of thousands of dollars to buy my note because my credit's good. It's a good, safe bet. And so they paid the dealership. So that means the dealership can sell it to me for less money. When you go and pay off that loan early, it really pisses off the bank because they paid the dealership thousands of dollars for that loan, and you make one or two payments and then you pay it off or close it or sell it or whatever. So what do? They contact their partner, FICO, and say, look, if someone opens an account and closes it, opens a new one and closes it, let's punish them. Let's lower their credit score. So all I did with this one gentleman was I showed him, stop buying cars in your personal name. Let's buy them through the business. You know, his business does 50 million plus a year in business. He's got business credit. I'm like, stop buying them. So that Ford Raptor that he has now, it's not in his personal name. It's in his business name. And so that's a mistake that I see guys with money doing. The other mistake that I see is credit cards. They have one credit card. Grant Cardone, you know who Grant is, right? Grant's got a low 600 credit score. Why? Because he doesn't have personal credit. Everything's through his business. If you don't use your personal credit, you won't have personal credit. You go back to zero or non-rated, right? Dave Ramsey says he has a 0 credit score. It's not true. It's unrated or non-rated. It just doesn't show up. Just like when you're 18 years old, there's no rating. There's no credit to give you credit score on. And as an adult, if you don't constantly use credit cards and loans, you won't have a credit score. So there was a gentleman, he flew in and he flies up and Grant Cardone is sitting there, and this is when Grant had his, I think it was his G4, the smaller jet. Mm-hmm. And my client pulls up next to him and gets on the radio and calls over to Grant and says, hey, is that you, Grant? I can't see you in my shadow. And he's making fun of Grant in his plane. And that later that night, we're with Bradley, and we go to a hockey game, and all of us are together, and we're talking, and Brad is telling the guys I got him up in the 800s now. And the guy's like, oh yeah, I don't need the credit. It's no big deal. I pay everything off in full. And I said, you know, one of the things that a lot of wealthy people do wrong is they don't have their bills set up on autopilot, on auto pay. And you should always do that. And this is the point. You should, on every single credit card you have, you log online, you go to the website, Bank of America, Chase, Wells, whatever it is, Capital One, you go to manage payments and you set up auto payment, minimum payment, and you hit save to where it automatically, no matter what, pays your minimum payment. I tell this guy, you need to do this. He's like, I don't need to worry about it. I'm like, okay, cool. About 6 months later, he calls me. He's furious. Goes to buy a house, multi-million-dollar house. Can't do it because his credit score dropped. Why? Because he had a credit card that had an annual fee that he thought he closed because he hadn't used it in a year. They hit him with the annual fee. He didn't have it on autopilot. They hit him with a late payment over like a $3 or $4 payment because, you know, the annual $50 or something. Right. So we had to clean that up. And so that's a story for you with someone with a lot of money that they screwed that up. And so you should have that. So moral of the story is don't pay off your car loans early. Don't pay off your student loans early. have 3 credit cards at all times and put them on autopilot. The other thing is how to get around paying interest, because that's really why, people want to pay off these 20% loans. It's not that they're getting rid of the cars necessarily. It's they want to get rid of the 20% loan. Here's how you do it. If you got a 5-year loan and you got 4 years left. I had this conversation with Dan Fleischman like 3 weeks ago. He was getting ready to pay off his mom's car. And I said, Dan, you can't pay off that car. What you want to do is you want to pay it down. So I said, how many years left on the loan? He's like, I don't know, 3 years or something. I said, then pay it down to like $30 and then set up automatic payment for $1 per month for the next 30 months. Technically, you're not debt free. So you can't walk around like Dave Ramsey and say, I'm debt free. Because technically you owe $30 on your $80,000 car, right? Yes, you are paying interest, but interest on $30, even at 20%, is, I don't know, $6 a year, 50 cents a month. It's worth it, 50 cents a month, to have great credit. And so this is one of the strategies. You pay down your loans very quickly, and same, especially student loans. Student loans are amazing for personal credit because they're 20-year loans. Pay them down to $100 and pay $1 a month for the next 100 months. Right? And this is a great way to hack your credit score because FICO sees that you've made all these payments, and the credit bureaus report you've made all these payments. The banks report to the credit bureaus, rather, that you made all these payments, and then FICO sees it, and so they jack up your scores. So it's a way to hack it. So 3 credit cards, don't pay off your loans early, and then set everything up on autopilot.
Got it.
Man, I'm long-winded today. Normally I talk a lot shorter little sound bites.
No, it's all good. I mean, it's great information. I could listen to it all day, man. I mean, literally everything you said, I'm just taking notes. I got a big page full of notes here. So
Awesome.
I appreciate it, man. But yeah, again, I really appreciate your time getting on here. You literally didn't have to do this, man. You got 5 companies, multi-millions, and you've always been super, genuine and very accessible. And, you're someone who I look up to, and, in a couple of years, I want to be like as well. Just, create a path, give back, and also be super accessible to the masses. So just thanks again, man. And anything I could do for you, I'm not really sure what I could do to help or add value, but I'm always here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you just said. If you want to help me, just let people know who I am and where to find me. You can find me anywhere on Rondi Lambeth. So RONDI Lambeth. Everything at social media is Rondi Lambeth. You type in Google Rondi, you're going to find me. I'm really, really easy to find. And just spread the word because I really want to help people. I truly, the bottom of my heart, want to help people. The advantage that I have, and I'm very honest about it, I make millions of dollars helping people, and it's okay. Michael Jordan entertained millions and millions and millions of people, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people all over the planet. And he got paid extremely well to do it. And he just did what he loved. Right. And so I get to do what I love, and I get paid to do it. So there's nothing wrong with making money doing it. Right. So the only way you can help me is spread the word, spread my podcasts, share my Instagram and Facebook, and let people know. If you want to know about money, credit, and taxes, Rondi's the way to go. Find him. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. America's Celebrity Wealth Coach. I appreciate you, brother. And I'm looking forward to being on the webinar Sunday. Hopefully I can get more involved with what you guys are doing.